month for me. And those couple of themes have been around mercy and justice. I was giving a talk to Kashmir one day in Hindi. And the question they asked me, it was a talk about mercy and being merciful. And then halfway through the talk, they asked me the question, well, if you're being merciful, what about justice? Where does justice play a role? And it really got me thinking about the context of the Confluence Age. It got me thinking about this time now where we are literally preparing to go home. And how can we gracefully exit this drama? And for me, that the image that keeps coming up again and again is the state of being fully merciful. You know, such an abundance of good wishes and forgiveness and self-appreciation and self-wonder and intoxication, that you exit the drama with your head held high. And today's Murli is all about Baba's directions and Srimad. And I thought, this is justice at the end of the cycle. We've opened accounts of 63 births. There are a lot of different types of nonsense, good ones, not so good ones. And of course, in Sangam Yuga, you could say, if you just applied the law of karma, you could say, well, you need to, get punishment for everything you did wrong. And Baba's mercy for us is his Srimad. And the fact that he says that children, when you follow my directions, you become elevated, you become free from worry, your burdens reduce, you become sweet. Following Srimad creates a passageway that allows your goodness to emerge. And then, more importantly, that when you followed Srimad over a period of time, you can become whatever you want. And it's quite remarkable how the power of Srimad enables us to receive Baba's mercy, to become merciful in the subject of settlement. Of course, Baba's Srimad is the guidance that allows us to stay connected so that we can fill ourselves with whatever we need from Baba. But this whole subject of mercy and then restoring justice, and it's not about punishing myself or feeling like I deserve to be unworthy, but at this time taking Baba's mercy, taking his Srimad and restoring order from inside out again, reclaiming a sense of self-sovereignty, so that I can pull the reins of my life together and gracefully exit this drama. I'm just going to interject here with a little story. I'd asked Sister Jayanti on the way, we were sharing a car journey on the way back to Ahmedabad, and I'd asked Jayanti Ben about Dadi, and at what point had Dadi taken ownership and decided that she was going to remain in London and establish her kind of groove and realize her raison d'etre for being there? Because it's one thing to follow someone else's directions, but quite another to have realized something for yourself. And when you've realized it and made a decision, you've owned it, and then you can give the strength of all your resources to it. And she was sharing a story about a time in Germany when they'd gone to Germany in the early days, and there was only Surya, and they were staying in his flat. And Surya Bhai had arranged all these programs at different temples and Indian establishments, and one of them was the Hare Krishna group. So Daddy went one particular evening and really, they were intoxicated. They had bhajans and then they had exploration of the Gita. And so she was so intoxicated that this is the place we have to serve. And then the next day, they were taking Daddy somewhere. And the two people that she saw, and they were going through a shopping mall, and then she saw two people, a man and a woman that she'd seen in the Hare Krishna group last night. And they were kind of locked together in an embrace and lip locked as well. And Daddy said, "Are these the two people I saw last night talking about God?" And she was horrified. And she said, "But what are they doing?" And of course, trying to explain to Daddy. And it was at that point, that she had said that she understood that she needs to bring what God's love really is and what loving really God is into the West, and this understanding of God. And it became so clear for her, this is the message she has to bring, that loving God, knowing God, understanding God requires a degree of sacrifice and surrender. And that became like, she realized what she needed to do. And she stayed so true to that, irrespective of the times in the drama when somebody would say to her, "Don't speak about God in the public program." And the whole public program would be about God. So, I was asking, myself, is that when we're serving spirits, there's something that each of us have a part to play. And we have a dimension of knowledge that we bring, a dimension of understanding and a window that we bring to our service that opens the doors for people to come close to Baba. And so what is that aspect of our part and our understanding that we bring that allows souls to come close to Baba? Sato Pradhan. The energy of Sato Pradhan, when you go into the definition of it, is illumination, light, consistency, and saralta, serenity and easiness. And so a Sato Pradhan effort maker is somebody that uses gyan in everything they do. And there's a consistency in their efforts. And as a result of that, there is an easy-naturedness, not a carelessness, but an easy-naturedness. Whereas Rajo, the energy of Rajo is about motion and movement. And so, that's why they call the horse, the horse riders. There's the infantry, the horse riders, and Maharathis. So the Sato Pradhan Maharathis, they have perspective, objectivity, not quick to react. But the horse riders gallop quickly, stop, gallop quickly, stop. So there's a lot of motion, movement, and polarity in efforts. So you can be caught up in competition, in comparisons. You're making effort because of, you're in a gathering. So the drama's pushing you also to make effort. And then tamo effort. I don't know if you can call this effort, but tamo is inertia. And is, I guess I'm not sure whether it's an effort that's self-initiated. It's an effort that is really dictated by your circumstances and desperation. It's not inspired effort. And so, tamo effort is also, I would say, occult power. The manipulating things to get what you want, manipulating the drama to get what you want. So when you understand it at an energetic level, the energy feed behind each three of them, then you can figure out the activity that takes place as a result. And it's interesting, Baba saying those who are tamo effort makers will go and serve those who become the Sun dynasty. Right? So they will also become servants of wealthy subjects. They used to have kacheri, the court. So Baba would openly ask, anybody made a mistake? And then, also many things were exposed during that time. So some think Baba lost their honor in a gathering by saying something about them in front of everyone. Then Baba replies and says, "Oh, but the unlimited Father is making everyone increase their honor. Baba has so many children. Would he explain privately to each one? The Father says everything in front of everyone." Daddy used to do that a lot. She could never keep a secret. You tell her anything next morning in morning class, she suddenly, she's telling everybody everything. It's only by following the Father's Srimad that you will become the most elevated of all. If you follow your own dictates, you will fall. By falling, you will eventually die. Here, there is a pyre of worries. It's interesting, the concept of honor and the form of body consciousness and ego, that, my face shouldn't be, my public reputation shouldn't be ruined, my face shouldn't be ruined. And that Baba comes and exposes everything and helps us kill that form of body consciousness, so that we can regain our spiritual honor, which is, immune to defamation and insult and victory and defeat. And also worry, because when you're holding up something that's limited, you worry your reputation's going to be spoiled. This is going to happen. This morning, after Amrit Veda, these two words, "I know," came to my mind. And when we listen to Baba's Murli, there is this sense, well, I know this. I know this. And yet the following Srimad is being what you know in that moment. And that's what makes me so proactive in my karma, because that elevated karma that's generated from that place of being, I then just sidestep the ill effect of my previous karma. I don't have to go through playing out the effect of my previous karma. And if you think of Sato, Rajo, Tamo as a very natural cycle of nature, there's no punishment there. It's just natural. And so he's just showing us the very clean path to become Sato Pradhan again. And if we don't follow that path, we're going to get hurt. It's as simple as that. As we fall into the effects of Tamo, which brings sorrow. So I was just marveling at how easy the path is when I stay concentrated. And the other aspect is being in India for the last 6 months and observing my own part in a process. I mean, this particular soul, I would have never thought I would be in the middle of conversations on waste management and waste treatment and water treatment plants, in a million years. And yet your part changes, or the context changes like this. And yet, is my part any different? And I thought, well, my part in these last 6 months have been to bridge, bring clarity, connect, and allow something to cohese at another level. And it's often that, Judy and myself have often spoken about this in the past. It's when we see the harmony that we become instruments to help the weaving of that bigger picture. And being in Madhuban over these last 3 years, at another turning point in the yagya, 3 daddies pass away, where quite literally the energy center that was top heavy is now kind of nicely spreading out, and we have this management committee in place, most of whom haven't really worked with each other, and who are getting to know each other, and who are figuring out how to make collective decisions together. And so there's a lot of things in Madhuban over the last few years, ever since Dadiji passed away and Dadiji became ill. where things were just getting too big and there weren't clear decisions made about things related to the infrastructure of the yagya. And so you've got this ship that's been carrying a lot of people, and lots of people have been climbing on board, 20,000, 25,000. And then slowly, there've been holes developing in the ship. And we get to a point 3 years ago when, of course, people get sick, and that's a sign. There's holes, there's something that's not working in our infrastructure that needs to be attended to. And so slowly, the whole focus of management realized, well, we've got to clean up our ship. We've got to address the basics to be able to carry a more unlimited service in the future. And Baba says hundreds and thousands will come. So I've been fascinated to see how Baba is putting his house in order and, fixing the ship, irrespective of the dynamics of people's and scars and etc. But Baba's really, at a practical level, the water, the food, the hygiene, things that felt impossible many years ago with the help of drama and COVID are becoming possible. And, in the middle of all that, I observe my own part, and I just know I just have to play my part. Not because of the context, but because this is my part to play. And as I play my part, I bring clarity and I recreate the context. And that's what's been quite amazing, how as you continue to play your part, and as you play your part, people start to see what is possible, what can happen. So you don't spend your time trying to convince people, create theories, or trying to tell people this is what's possible, but you demonstrate it. And I've always appreciated the proactive nature of in Brahmin life. Many people say to me, when are you going to write a book? Or when are you going to give more meditation commentaries? And I say, well, the world doesn't need another book. And I always have this pull to just, be a proactive example and just play my part and let that demonstrate a new dimension, a new possibility. So it's been a very fulfilling time, challenging in the sense that it really, in Madhuban at a big level is run by 48 main departments, of which 26 are related to the kitchen, 8 are related to water. So in total, I'm working with like 34 heads of department. And they're all brothers, and they all have their different dynamics. And India doesn't operate on logic and rationale. It operates on bhavana. So you can come forward with the best possible proposal for this is absolutely right, this is what's logical, makes sense, but they won't accept it until the bhavana has been stoked and fed. And so I had to really exercise a different way of being that starts with bhavana first, and just put the Anglo-Saxon habituated mindset to the back and bring the bhavana front and use the intelligence of bhavana to open a pathway that allows common sense, logic, and rationale to do its faith. And so, it's really working with intuitive. I think there's this saying, I don't know who it's by, that the intuitive mind is a gift and the rational mind is the faithful servant. And we're in a society now that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And there's something about me having to put everything aside about right and wrong and logic and rationale and proposal and plan, and just be in that moment with these brothers and just feel very deeply what pulse of bhavana, what does it awaken pure bhavana, what does it take to awaken pure bhavana here? And as I responded to awakening pure bhavana, and sometimes it might mean eating, just giving them something to eat that's really with a lot of love, prepared with a lot of love, or sharing a story, or letting them talk and letting them just banter around and creating an atmosphere where bhavana takes the lead. And it's funny, I find, as Bhavna takes the lead, then automatically, slowly swings and roundabouts, but we start to get to the point of it. We start eventually, by the end of the meeting, they've all arrived at the same page and they're at the point of it. No one quite knows how it's been done, but it's happened. And I've just realized, it's the way things work in Bharat, that I need to stay in a space of very powerful, pure bhavana for myself, for them, play my part in the conversation, ask the questions I need to ask if that's part of playing my part, and let things be revealed. And so it is a journey that requires more patience, I feel, when we're working with bhavana, because you're not working with an outcome. You're working with purity of your feeling and with Baba. And I feel that's what Srimad, when we're following Srimad, is we are being what we know in that moment, which is I'm a soul, you're Baba's children, I'm a Baba's child, and, let's talk, let's share what we know. And I can see how when we start with bhavana, whatever friction there exists between the brothers or non-communication there exists, it just creates a very safe space that allows people to connect again. And I see how when people are connected, whoa, it's like action takes place at an unlimited scale. I remember one particular meeting where I brought together some very key heads of department to meet with Sister Jayanti. And I just called it a Snemilan, a loving gathering. And you had the accommodation, Dave Bai, he's a big guy in the campus, lots of things under him, the cleaning, the kitchen, the water people. And it was interesting that hour and a half where I was just talking to Jentiben, opening up a dialogue with Jentiben and getting her to share stories about Brahma Baba and about Brahma Baba's leadership and his own method of working with the children, inspiring people. That after that hour and a half, it was like something glued amongst the brothers. And it was like a whole series and a flurry of activity began just automatically. I had a phone call from one brother, we can do this, you need to do that. I said, okay. I made another phone call, 10 people came together, and it's a magic of pure bhavana. I see how that makes things happen so fast, because people are willing to be present and willing to be there, even though they might not understand fully what's happening. And I love that about Bharat. I love that aspect. And coming to the West, I appreciate very much the dimension of the rationale. I appreciate the need to understand everything, but I also realize how slow things can become. And that actually working with trust and faith and working on the basis of Srimad puts me in a position of purity of my own feelings inside, so that it's okay if I don't understand and it's okay if I don't know. But I'm willing to be present. And just my presence then helps something to unravel. My presence and being there just enables me to play my part and helps Baba reveal what is in the next chapter of the drama. So yeah, it's wonderful to be exercised at both levels, to be exercised in Bharat and then to be exercised in the West. And I feel that it's definitely made the heart very strong, and much, much more detachment and much, much more patience in the process as well.
Could you just define bhavna? I'm thinking some here might not feel as comfortable with that word. And what helped you move from rational, logical to bhavna? What, a couple little signals on the way, little clues.
Bhavna is pure feeling. Although there is the concept of bhakti bhavna, bhakti is ritual, the feeling for a ritual that takes you somewhere. That's bhakti bhavna. But in Gyan, It's the feelings of your original self, the feelings of what gets created when you connect with Baba. That's pure bhavna. And of course, I noticed over 6 months how there were moments when I lost it. When people would just not, their concept and relationship with time is very different to the West. So, when somebody says to me 11 o'clock is 11 o'clock, for them 11 o'clock is 11:30. Or, not being present when someone is available, or just saying, oh, well, I couldn't make it today, so I'll make it tomorrow. And so there were moments when I saw myself in relation to handling them very rajo. I was getting frustrated. And then I remember saying, no, Gopi, you can't be like this. It's not helping you, it's not helping them. And they don't care whether you're frustrated or not, because it's not going to make them move any faster. And, I had to go through a period of physical sickness to break that rational mindset down, because I hadn't quite realized how deep that mindset was, and how it had arranged my nature, and arranged my feeling about myself. And I realized, and even just arranged my cellular structure. And so I had to go through a period of physical breakdown, which I did in January. 10, 12 days, 2 weeks, immobility, complete immobility. I had a sinus infection, chest infection, lower back pain, fever. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even think. And it was wonderful, because it was just being reset back to zero. And in those moments, when you have a sanskara of having had yoga for a long period of time, it's not that you can connect with Baba, but you can become bodiless. And when I made myself bodiless one evening, because, you can't go anywhere, do anything, you can't think, there's no reaction whatsoever from your system towards anything, then you can completely let go, and beautiful truths emerge that carry you through this period. So it was like the drama, this too shall pass, whatever is come is to go. And I just felt like I was carried in a comfort bubble of this trueness, and I could tolerate the discomfort of the settlement. And I was so appreciative at the end of 2 weeks to kind of find myself in a very different space inside, with much more access to the purity of my feelings than I had before, because somehow the illness had disabled the rational mindset. It had just unwired the neuronic structure linked to that mindset, and there was so much more freedom inside. So I think, we don't sometimes appreciate how deeply our swabhav, our nature, is defined by our mindset. And that, for my swabhav to change, my nature to change, that controls my physiology, when I start releasing that mindset, it will bring about a change in swabhav and a change in my physiology, that allows bhavana to come through. And so a lot of listening, a lot of not appreciation, but being kindly truthful in the moment, being kindly truthful. And because a newfound neutrality emerges, then it's easy to be with Baba and be with another in that moment, irrespective of where they're at. And I also appreciated 2 conversations I had. One was with Bridgemal Bai, and one was with Nuer Bai, because there is a particular practice. We don't have to wait for the body to break down for our nature to change and our mindset to change. But there are practices that we can adopt to keep ourselves beyond, so to speak, to keep our nature and keep ourselves free from any particular mindset. And with Bridge Bombay, it was interesting how we had a teachers' meeting in April. It's when all the teachers of Bharat gathered together. And of course, it was a 5-day meeting, and the senior brothers and joint chiefs and heads were on stage. Bridge Bombay is usually the joker in the gathering. You know, he'll tell a joke, make everybody laugh. But he didn't tell a single joke during the whole 5 days. And somebody said to him, why aren't you being yourself? Why don't you tell a joke? You know, you always entertain us with jokes. And he said, no. He said, this time I'm merging that part of my nature so that I can reserve that energy for a higher task. And it's interesting. And I said to him, what do you feel it is? And he says, I'm seeing how that energy that I could have used in my nature in this, I'm seeing how when I'm sitting in meetings and decisions need to be made, there's more impact in the decisions being made. So it's almost like when you step away from aspects of your nature that you're so used to kind of expressing from, you're gathering your energy, you're gathering and harvesting your power that can be much more useful in an unlimited way. Baba can use that. It can be more impactful in Baba's unlimited task. So that was one thing, and that was a question, you know, what aspects of my nature are still, they're nice and they're good, but I'm still losing a bit of power. I need to gather more power. And then the other aspect was Nwebai. And I said to Nwebai, I'm going back to London, so what do you want me to share with London class? Is there a message you want me to give to the London class? And he said, very romantically, he said, tell them I meet them every morning. And he was so sweet. And you know, I'd spent some time with him when he was really sick. And I said to him, you've set your stage, you've set a particular place, you know. How have you done that? And he said every morning he has a practice. He meets Sakar Baba. He remembers those meetings with Sakar Baba. So he starts at a very corporeal level, emerging those memories, those feelings of being with Sakar Baba. And then that kind of takes him automatically into the Avyakt, where he gets a flavor and he meets his complete stage in Avyakt Bab Dada. And that's a different feeling. And then when that feeling finishes, it carries him into the incorporeal world. And there's the feeling of being with Baba and giving Sakash. And then very naturally with that feeling, it's like he feels like he's being taken on a tour. And on that tour, different instruments emerge, different countries emerge, and every day it's different. And then from that tour, he then comes back down in his body and with all that Sakash, and then, you know, energizes the whole body. And he says that takes him half an hour every day. But the result of that practice is that he is experiencing such a degree of good wishes for whatever and whoever comes in front of him. And he says people come in front of him with all kinds of states, but the good wishes that I feel protect me from even being influenced by their state in that moment. And it's begun to keep things so simple, where I just get them to look at Baba. They look at Baba, I sit there with Baba, and they realize something, and the matter's solved. So I was just appreciating the effort. And I guess it made me think, well, what is my effort in remaining beyond in all of this as well?